Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to another episode of Intuitive Creator Spotlight. I am Stella, your host, and in this playlist, I invite amazing guests who embrace their gifts, embrace their paths, transform their lives, and now are on a journey to help other people and other beautiful beings around us to connect with themselves and transform their lives too. So today, I have here with me Claire. She is an internationally recognized animal communicator and interspecies translator. Yes, it sounds like such a complex thought and a complex thing that Claire is doing, which it is, but I cannot wait for her to share the story behind it because she has worked with animals of all sizes and she is helping humans understand their animal companions. Hi, Claire. Welcome to this interview.
Hi, Stella. It's lovely to meet you.
I'm so happy you're here, and I know that your story is so inspiring for others, but it's also inspiring for your own soul because you have been through every step of the journey. And it's not like one day everything showed up for you. You had to explore what was there for you, what was your calling. So, can you tell us how did you understand that you had to shift something in your life? Because I know you've had a normal job and then there was a moment in your life when you realized something needs to change. What was that moment?
Ill health, really, because as you say, I had a normal job in an office, 9 to 5, the usual stuff. Thought that was going to be me till retirement. Um, Always felt a little bit unfulfilled because I think you do when you do office work, to be honest. And then I got scarlet fever quite randomly because it's not a very common disease. Just thought, oh well, a few weeks off work, that's not a problem to me. But it turned into years of ill health. I didn't recover from the scarlet fever. The symptoms got worse. I got so many symptoms. I was bedridden for about 6 months. I was housebound for about a year, and then I was in a wheelchair for about 4 years. And the diagnosis I had was ME. Um, and I was retired on medical grounds. So, I'm still young. We'd only got married the year before and I'm on the scrap heap. I've got no job and I've got no future. But I was being treated with homeopathic medicine because there is no treatment. There still isn't a treatment for ME on conventional medicine at all. Um, and I just thought, well, why don't I study this? Because it's working for me and it works for my family. So and this could be something I could do. And so I did. I did 4 years of college. By the time I'd graduated college, I was out of the wheelchair and I was pretty much fully recovered myself, which was amazing. Already had a thriving practice. I was doing really well. But the one thing that kind of always just took the edge off the perfection of life was all I ever wanted to do was work with animals. When I was a small child, I've been surrounded by animals forever, and all I wanted to do was work with them. Even as a homeopath, in the UK, you're not allowed to work with animals and homeopathy. You've got to be a veterinary surgeon to do that. So I was thwarted there. I couldn't do that. And so just resigned myself to, well, I'll help the humans, and the humans, then they'll be better humans and they'll be better to their animals. That's kind of the way I looked at it. And then I picked up a book. I was in a book club and I just happened to see this one mentioned, and it was about animal communication, which I'd never heard of. And I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. Read the book, was absolutely astonished that as I read this book, so many of the things the author said resonated so much with me. And we're good friends now. It's Amelia Kincaid who wrote the book. And I've said to her, I was so mad at you because your life story was my life story. But there was you working with all these animals all over the world. And there was me stuck in an office, doing a job that wasn't even essential, never mind anything else. And I just wanted to live her life. That's basically it. And then she came over to the UK to teach a seminar, which I attended, and that's when everything changed. I thought I'd be the only one who couldn't do it. I thought I'd be absolutely useless at it, and I only did it to be able to hear my cat. Um, and it just went nuts. I got as much practice as I could. As soon as I'd finished the seminar, I would just, everybody I know who's got an animal, send me pictures, let me talk to your animal. I don't care if you think I'm mad, let's do this. That went great. People were like, you should be doing this professionally. And I'm like, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. Then my cat in heaven sent me a message which basically said, yes, you are going to be doing this professionally. And the very next day was when my phone started ringing off the hook. I had reporters coming for interviews, and it was mad. It was really, really mad how quickly it all moved on. So then I was Amelia's assistant for about 8 years. And so, you know, if you like, it was a really good postgrad workout. Um, and it's just gone from there. I teach people to hear their own animals. I spend my entire life just talking to animals now, and it's wonderful. It's the best life in the world.
Oh, I can see the light in your eyes when you talk about this, and how interesting that you mentioned that you had this connection with animals, and then life happened, you had your job, but then everything guided you back to your essence and what you were meant to do here on earth in this lifetime. And it's just interesting how things unfold. And when you're ready, when you choose to activate that within you, things just happen. I say just happen. Of course, it still takes a lot of time and work and practice, but then things do align with your essence. And so I know you mentioned that at some point your cat in spirit told you that this is what you're going to do. So, would you like to share with us how do you communicate with animals that are here with us and then animals that are in spirit? Is there a difference? And if yes, what kind of difference there is?
There's absolutely no difference because we're connecting to their essence, their soul, their spirit. So that doesn't change. Just because there isn't a physical vehicle to carry it around anymore, nothing changes. So, and I work with animals and spirit constantly. And the way that you make a connection, it's so simple. Honestly, it's so simple. You 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 have to connect to the love that you have inside for that particular animal. And it can be your animal, it can be a friend's animal, it can be a strange animal, it can be an animal you're afraid of. But somewhere inside there is a love for that creature. And that's what you connect to. I call it the wave of love. This is what I say to my students. When you see an animal you love, and honestly, I haven't got a picture of any of my animals around me. Oh, I've got a picture of a guide dog though. You look at that picture and you see that you're doing it. I see your face when you see his face, and you're sending him the wave of love because you
Mm,
see him, and your heart immediately goes, oh, because he's really cute. And
mm,
so that's what you hold on to, that thing inside you that goes, oh, when you see an animal, doesn't matter what the animal is, and you focus on turning that into a wave of love. For me, it's a pink wave. Of course it is. It's going to be a pink wave. It can be any color you want it to be. You send it to that animal and you envelop them in that wave of love. And that animal responds to that straight away. If you live with an animal now, you know that sometimes when you see them, usually for me, it's when my cats are all curled up and looking really cute and cozy. And you kind of, oh, when you see them. And watch when you do that, because you will see either your cat will curl up even more or they'll stretch because they felt that wave that you sent them. You've made that connection. That, honestly, that's the psychic telephone you use to get through to any animal. And so you
mm,
send that wave of love, and then you tell that animal how much you love them, because everybody likes to hear how much they're loved.
of
And
course.
then you just ask them whatever you need to ask them, whatever you need to know from them, or you tell them whatever you need them to know. And the difficulty, this is where you need a bit more, you need some training and some skills. The difficulty is in listening to the response. Because
Mhm.
as humans, as soon as we ask a question, we're formulating the other person's response. It's already happening in our heads. So you say to your dog or your cat, what would you like to eat? And your brain says, well, I know his favorite food is whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not waiting for that animal to say, well, that might be my favorite thing, but today I fancy something different. And it's when you get out of your own way and stop that internal chatter that the voices start to come through. And it is a voice. It
Mm-hmm.
honestly is a voice. I am clairaudient. Yes, obviously I am. And with my students, not all of my students are. And that doesn't matter because animals know this. So they know what our best skills are. So if we're not clairaudient, they might send us an image. So you might say, what would you like to eat? And you in your head will get an image of a steak if it's a dog, or a carrot if it's a horse. And then you might not be clairvoyant, so you might smell something instead. You'll be able to differentiate. You can certainly tell the difference between a steak and a carrot when you smell them. So they find a different way, or they'll send you a feeling, or an emotion. They will find a way because they know that we all have some clair senses, and one is always predominant in all of us. Our animals know which one is best. They send that message. So we don't even need to work it out necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They know, they send the message. We just have to be open to receive it. And we have to understand that it's not always going to be like for me, I've been doing this 20 years. I have long conversations with animals. I'm on that psychic telephone for about an hour with my clients' animals. I don't expect anybody else to get that amount of information. You might only get one word answers. It doesn't matter. My first conversation was with one of my cats. And funnily enough, it was the night before I went on the training. This was what surprised me. She was mad at me and she was in my suitcase that I was packing, as cats do. And I said to her, don't be mad at me. I'm going to learn to be able to hear you when I come back. And she said to me, well, it's about time. She didn't say it quite so politely as that, but that's what
Mm-hmm.
she said. It's about time. And I just brushed that off, thinking that was in my head. Then did the training and realized, yes, that actually was, because that is exactly how she would speak to me. And so when something comes through and it surprises you, it might make you laugh, it might make you cry. But if it's a surprise and you weren't expecting your animal to come out with that, you know it came from them. It's such a simple process. The skill comes in the act of listening and the learning to kind of become a better person yourself, to become more animal-like, so that you get out of your own way and just let them communicate. It's wonderful. Honestly, it's wonderful. I don't have to think. When I first, sorry, I'm going on, I know, but when I first started, I thought I'm going to have to know everything there is to know about dogs, cats, horses, and then when I started to do the other work, I don't know much about um, leopards, tigers,
Mm-hmm.
rhinos. I knew nothing about rhinos or giraffes when I was working with them. And then I realized I don't need to know anything. They're the experts on their species and on themselves. So I don't need to know any of that stuff. If I'm just a pure vessel, if you like, if I just let all of that stuff come in, I don't even need to sort it out. I write it down and I give it back to the person who asked me the questions about their animal, and it makes sense to them. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense to me. Most of them, honestly, I've got notepads here on the desk, and most of them don't make sense to me because it's none of my business. I'm just the person who passes on the information, but it always makes sense to the person who asked the question, and that's the important thing. And it's just about, you can't have an ego in this work because you will trip yourself up. You can't decide, I'm the horse expert. I know what this horse needs. No, the
Mm-hmm.
horse is the expert and he knows what he needs. You just have to listen to him carefully. That's what
Mm-hmm.
it's all about. That's what animal communication is. It's it's actually a bit of a misnomer, if you like, because animal communication implies we talk to the animals like Dr. Dolittle, but actually we listen to the animals. That's all
Mm-hmm.
it is. You just have to listen.
And then you translate that to humans until
Yes,
they learn how to communicate with their own animals. And
absolutely.
And what you've done right here, Claire, which is absolutely incredible, you taught us how to tune into that energy, the wave of love, and to connect with animals this way. This just is such a simple, if you think,
Yes,
because we all can open up our hearts if we choose to do that.
right.
And yet, sometimes we may overcomplicate things and think, oh, I need to do this and these steps, when in
Yes.
reality, we need to just learn how to open up our hearts and be present. And yes, like more information comes with experience and expertise, and you are someone who does this on a daily basis. Of course, like you said, you'll have hours of conversations with animals, but for someone who wants to just be able to communicate with their own animal, I absolutely love how you expressed this guidance on how to tune into that wave of love. So I know that you communicated and still communicate with a lot of different animals, different species. Did you find any kind of common pattern or thread, as in, like, what would be the first kind of message an animal would want to transmit to the human? Is
Oh,
there a
that
pattern?
is it's that one is such an easy one. It's always how much they love their person. Always.
Oh,
Even when they're rescue animals, even when they're animals, people are getting in touch with me, usually because an animal has a perceived problem. There's no
mhm,
such thing. Or they have a behavioural issue. There's no such thing. It's just a miscommunication. They're not listening. Um, and it's always about, you know, I'm trying to do this out of love, but it's not being understood. It's always about love. With the animals, it honestly, it's always about love, no matter what you think. Um, because obviously I don't have people who get in touch with me who are horrible to their animals because they
mhm.
wouldn't spend their money on someone like me as well. Everybody who gets in touch with me loves that animal or they wouldn't have asked in the first place. And the animal just wants them to know it is reciprocated. And it may seem that I don't love you because my behavior is unfathomable because you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you, but it's coming from a place of love. It's always from a place of love with them. And that is the common denominator through every species. Even and I've had students talk with insects
Mm.
because I bring guest, well, especially, well, it doesn't matter if I'm online or in person, I always have guest teachers who are animals. And it's really interesting. Occasionally we have insects as guest teachers, and everybody thinks you can't communicate with an insect. That's ridiculous. One of my favorites, and he was so popular. He was a giant Madagascan hissing cockroach, and he was about that big. And his name was Billy, he told us, because he'd never been named because he was a cockroach. And his message was of love for humans and the planet. And the fact that, people are afraid of a lot of insects, especially cockroaches. People don't like them. And what I said to the students, you need to, once you understand an animal's purpose, then you can love them. When you don't understand what their purpose is, it's easy to dislike them or even hate them. And so I said to the students, ask Billy what's his life purpose, what's his job? And he said, for all of us insects, it's about saving the earth from you dirty humans. Yeah, because he said we are the trash collectors. We are the recyclers. We are the ones who will turn your rubbish into good food for planet Earth. And
Wow.
without us, you'll soon die underneath all of your own rubbish. And it's absolutely true. So
Mm.
just, if you see a cockroach in a bar when you're on holiday somewhere, it's not because it's a dirty cockroach and it's decided to move in. It's trying to keep the place clean for you to enjoy being in that bar.
Mm. And if you think about it, cockroaches are the species that would survive like
Exactly.
the most like natural disasters and stuff like that. And this is
They
a
would they would survive nuclear attack and we wouldn't.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How powerful that is, and it's teaching us great lessons. And thank you for bringing these messages for all of us, because this is a reminder that yes, there is love. We can find love in like easier for our own pets or for animals that we live with. We create a connection. But thank you for bringing this element as well, that we can understand other animals that maybe we don't like, or we think, oh, they are disgusting or stuff, and understand their purpose. And I love how you said, when you understand their purpose, you can find that energy of love within yourself for them. So I know that this beautiful journey of you wanting to open up more towards the animal kingdom started with a book that inspired you. Now I know that you have just published your own book, and I really want you to talk to us about it because it has such an incredible story, and especially that it is about your connection with an animal that you haven't met in real human existence. Tell us
Right.
about it.
Yeah, here he is. This is him. Um, he's very shiny, so sometimes that's probably a very good view of him actually. So this is Bentley. Um, he's a client's cat. I never met him when he was alive. I never did a communication with him when he was alive. His mum, Janet, got in touch because she was just worried about him. He'd crossed over and she was worried and wanted to know if he was okay on the other side. She had a feeling that he might not be, so she needed some reassurance. And I connected him with Bentley, and I don't know anything about him. And he immediately tells me he's not in the situation that Janet was worried he might be in, that I knew nothing about. So she was instantly pacified because she'd not given me any clues. And she had wondered if he might actually reincarnate and come back to be with her. But he said that wasn't going to be possible for him at that particular point, because he'd already been given a job when he arrived in heaven, and it was to look after a little girl who had she was an orphan girl, but she'd arrived in heaven. She couldn't have been an orphan, I'm telling a lie. She'd arrived in heaven and none of her family had already arrived. So she had nobody to, normally there is someone waiting for us when we arrive in heaven. And it was Bentley who was waiting for this little girl so that she wouldn't arrive alone. And that is something else that I've learned from Bentley, that we never arrive alone. It's usually someone that we love who is already out there. Could be a human, could be an animal, but there will be a loved one who will be waiting for us. If we don't happen to have anyone who's already in heaven ahead of us, like this little girl, then there will be someone appointed to come and look after us. So you never cross alone. And it doesn't matter what species you are, doesn't matter the circumstances of how you cross over, you will still be met by someone and you'll be taken care of. So you don't arrive really scared and you don't know where to go. So Bentley was looking after this little girl. And then, long story short, as time progressed, Janet asked me to speak to him again, and we kept up the communications actually for 12 years and counting, because I just spoke to him again last week. And he then told us he was with a little boy had arrived, and he was now going to look after the little girl. They'd become friends. And it turned out this little boy had been a constant companion of Janet's. Whenever she saw a psychic or a medium, they said, there's a little boy stood next to you, and she didn't know who he was or why he was there. And from the description I was able to give her of the little boy, it sounded exactly like this little boy who'd been stood next to her. We were now able to ask him what his story was, and he and Janet had been together in a workhouse in Victorian Britain, and she had looked after him, and so he had now seen, okay, I am connected to this woman, this cat is connected to this woman, therefore this little girl is now connected to this woman, I will help the little girl. So he now had a purpose and didn't need to hang around Janet all the time. And those two kids are so happy in heaven. They now look after all the orphaned animals who arrive. So all the baby animals who die far too early go to these two children to look after them until they're well enough to enjoy their adventures in heaven. So it's like an amazing process. So we weren't going to do anything with this information at all. Bentley told us we had to keep a record of everything he told us over this 12 years. So Janet has notes, I have notes. At one point he said it was going to become a book, and we absolutely panicked because neither of us knows how to publish. And we panicked for a long time, and we kept asking him, So when do we publish? When do we? And he kept saying it's not the right time. And then just about a year ago now, about last April, he said to me, the time is right to publish. And I completely panicked because I still, despite having done a number of courses, I still wasn't sure how to publish this ourselves. That same night, I'm on Facebook. I get a Facebook request from a stranger, but she had some friends, mutual friends. So I accepted the friend request and just sent her a little message saying, you know, thanks for the invite. She messaged back to tell me how she was friends with these mutual friends and happened to mention she'd published this friend's book, which was about a dog in spirit. And I said, how weird. Just today I was speaking to a cat in spirit who said his book has to be published. She said, send me some chapters. I sent her some chapters the next day and she got back in touch and said, do you want a contract? And I said, yes, please. and and that's it. That's the result of it. That
Mm.
is the book that she produced. And oh, I don't think you can see
Yeah,
any of
and
it.
and then it just shows how Bentley was so busy there in spirit doing so much work, but Bentley also found time to connect you with the right publisher so that this book is here today. And to everyone who's watching us, please check out the description of this video to know where you can find the book and how you can connect with Claire, because as you can see, she has a lot of information to share, a wealth of experience, and also she has a beautiful heart, and I can totally feel the love that you have for animals and for humans through all the work that you do. You're inspiring all of us to connect with who we are and then with each other. So Claire, for those who maybe want to start strengthening their connection with their animals, what could be some simple practices or simple steps that they can try today to help them connect with their animals more?
To be able to understand the messages you're receiving, it's more about kind of developing yourself. So if you want to hear them, and in particular, if you've got a particularly busy, noisy life, then meditation is the best thing you can do. Because often they'll recognize, okay, the brain waves have changed, I can get through to you now. So they'll often come through at that point. They will often, as another good time is just as you're drifting off to sleep or just as you're waking up before the brain engages. As soon as that brain is engaged, that's the problem, because the brain causes all the problems in the world because it invents stories and it invents answers and it tells us we can't do it. So if we can make our connection with animals without the brain, so much the better. That sounds easier than it is. If you want to see the images that animals send you, then doing visual things, art, crafts, photography, even colouring books, anything that again is getting you out of your analytical brain. If you want to become a bit more clairsentient, if you want to actually feel what they're feeling, then most spiritual practices will help you become more empathic and help you to make that connection with animals. Animals are incredibly spiritual. We just don't realize that because we're not listening to what they say. But honestly, the best philosophers have got four legs or wings. They really do. So it's about developing yourself, and that's what I say, certainly, because I do two levels of teaching, and there's a basic that helps you can go and talk to any animal you want at the end of the basic course, and the advanced course is the one that's about developing you so that you become the best possible portal for all of this information to come through. But certainly on your own, it's about switching the brain off. It's about having dedicated time with your animal without the TV on in the background, without a phone in your hand, paying more attention to them. If you have a dog, when you walk them, don't take your phone. Or if you have your phone, have it in your pocket. I get really sad when I see people walking their dog and they're on their phone. This is a shared experience, and it's actually the dog's walk, it's not yours. So if you want to be on the phone, do that when you get home. But this is his time, so spend that time with him. The way dogs pick up their information is through scent. They want to know what's going on in the neighborhood. Do not be dragging your dog away from the sniffs, because that's like dragging you away from your Facebook feed. That's how you find out what's going on in the neighborhood and with all your friends. That's what the dogs are doing. And I see it all the time. People not paying attention to what the dogs are getting out of their walk. It's not just about exercise. It's much more about information gathering. And sometimes, yes, it's seeing their friends, but it's usually about checking out who's been here, what's going on in the neighborhood, what news is there. And then you see, if you learn animal communication, you can find out what's going on in the neighborhood because your dog will tell you. And horses are the biggest gossips in the world. Spend time with your horse. Just sit with your horse, just leaning against your horse, hold your horse, just connect to them with no agenda, nothing in your head, and see what comes into your head and see what you feel afterwards. It's just about spending that time with them with no other agenda. It's not about I'm trying to train you or I'm trying to get you to do something different or not do something. It's about just you and me time. Let's just sit here and see how we go. And you tell me what you want to tell me and you do what you want to do. And I'm up for it. But I'm not going to be distracted by telephones, by computers, by TV screens, by anything else. It's just you and me. And you tell me when and they'll tell you when they've had enough as well, because they'll just wander off. But if they're focused on you, the worst thing in the world is if your animal is staring at you and they're trying to make a connection and you're like, oh, just give me a minute while I scroll the rest of my feed. And by that point, the animal, I'm not going to tell you now, the moment's passed. So engage with them, connect with them, and just appreciate them for who they are. And tell them a thank you. Nobody thanks their animals. We might tell them we love them, most of us do, but not many people thank them just for who they are and what they bring to the world. So if you see pigeons when you're out, pigeons have a job the same as all other animals. You might not particularly like them, but they've got a job. Appreciate them. And the more you appreciate the animals outdoors, the more amenable they are to you too. So when you need them to do something for you, like years on years, we would get wasps in our garden because we have a plum tree and they love the plums. So I make an agreement with the wasps every year. You're only allowed to have the plums that I can't reach. So I show them how far I go out. It's a very big plum tree. I can't reach the plums at the top. They're just going to go to waste. They're your plums. The plums below this line, they're for the humans to eat. The plums that have already landed on the earth, you might as well have them as well because they'll be bruised or damaged. But anything that's healthy and in the middle, those are ours. And you leave us alone, we leave you alone. We've never had to call pest control out or anything like that. We have this agreement. They know they've got some, because if you take it all from them, then how do they survive? So it's about sharing because they're part of our environment too. So, if you're having a picnic and you don't want the wasps to be bothering you, take them a piece of fruit, put it aside from where you are. That's where the wasps will go and they'll leave you alone. You've made that deal with them. And you can do the same. Like we had chickens for a long time, rescue chickens. We didn't want rats. So we made a deal, like if you leave the chicken food alone and you don't go near the chickens, we'll put some food out somewhere else and you can have food somewhere else. The same, we didn't want mice because chickens will eat mice. I didn't know that till I had chickens. That horrified me. So you put a warning out then. My warning to the mice was, okay, we have these huge dinosaurs who live in our garden. They will kill you. Their food looks enticing, but it's not worth it. It really isn't worth it. And then you make a deal with them to move out. We had a mouse who lived in our garage, and it was winter. So I said to him, well, that's fair enough. I would want shelter in the winter. But when spring comes and you decide to take a wife and you want to have babies, you move out and you live how you're supposed to live. And he did. He moved out in springtime and we never saw him again because I was thinking he's going to bring the whole family back. But he didn't. And it works. You negotiate with them, you appreciate them for who they are and they all have a life purpose as well. And we can all live side by side. It's so easy if you just see them as another individual rather than a pest or something that we need to control.
Yeah, and it just shows how we can create this ecosystem that is healthy, and then we will all understand what we're doing there, and we all take care of each other. And thank you so much for bringing all of these examples, because these are clear examples. If somebody's thinking, well, I have a plum tree in my garden, how do I deal with wasps? And with wasps, I very much love an island in Greece called Kefalonia. And we've been to other islands, but on that island in particular, there are lots of wasps. When you go to like all of these restaurants, they will always come around. And there is something healing on that island. And I always think, well, if these wasps are here, clearly, they like this land and they are sending so many messages. And honestly, at first, when we traveled for the first time there, I was scared. But then after that first time, we visited so many more times, because you learn how to move, you learn how to just connect with this energy that is around you. And so thank you so much for bringing all of these examples to us. And so as we are wrapping up this episode, what do you think, if animals had one universal message for humanity, what do you feel that message would be?
I honestly think a universal message from the animals would be listen to each other. Instead of talking at each other, listen to each other. Because when you see the world through someone else's point of view, it makes more sense. We are too egotistical. It's all about me and my place in this world, and this is what I want for my comfort and everything else. If we listen to everyone else's point of view, there's more than enough for everyone here. There absolutely is, and Bentley actually says that, and I think it's in the book. He actually says there is more than enough for the entire for all the population, and that includes all the animal population. But you don't need to hoard it. There's enough for everyone. Just share it out. So I honestly think their message would be, rather than kind of talk to each other, it would be listen to each other. And when you listen with love, which is actually the name of my teaching program, and I didn't intend to put that in as a plug, but it just came. When you listen with love, then you will see their perspective, and life becomes easier with everyone. I honestly believe that would be their message.
Oh, thank you for this message. I resonate with this message so much, and thank you for sharing it with all of us here. Thank you for your beautiful presence in this interview, and thank you to everyone who is watching this episode. If you're new to our channel, please take a moment to subscribe, like this video, let us know your thoughts, and take a moment to check the description and know how to connect with Clare to buy the book, because this is a book that brings so many messages for all of us. And stay tuned for the next episodes. Thank you, and see you again soon. Bye.